from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased joining me, Ricardo Jimenez. Ricardo, the way I love to do it, honestly, is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. I have a theory. No one can introduce someone else better than themselves. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Thanks for having me in your show, Mehmet. Very glad to be here. I'm Ricardo Jimenez from Spain, currently living in Puerto Rico. I'm an entrepreneur, an angel investor, most recently an author. I launched my book, Crash Course, a couple of weeks ago, in which I tell the emotional journey as an entrepreneur. And I'm more than happy to talk as much as we talk more in depth about the book, but that's a short intro there.
Great. And thank you for being with me here today, Ricardo. The way I like to start, so what brought you to entrepreneurship? And, also I know you've done some investments in more than 30 tech projects. So that there must be something that attracted you to be in this space. You decided to be there. So what was the turning point?
Yeah, I think lots of people end up here for different reasons. I would think most often it's people know that they've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. But in my case, I think I had the spirit, the desire, the ambition for freedom, but I never knew what the best route for me was. I did not know what an entrepreneur was until I was 28. However, I think that word is just a way of capturing, let's say, a set of values or ambitions, and I did have those. So what I wanted again was to find a way to live the life that I wanted and to express myself out there in the world. I was sharing ideas with a friend. We wanted to see what made sense for our first startup, and because we both had been to over 40 countries at the time, we cared about education. We wanted something that could really scale. We decided that we wanted to do toys in the shape of countries, but that was just the beginning of a product line that I could see having 200 toys, enough to connect the kids over the world, a theme park, movies. The sky was the limit. So a big vision and a big opportunity, a big way to make an impact, and also having the sense that if I work hard and I do things well, I will end up capturing the rewards. Because just the idea of going paycheck by paycheck with savings that may not make a difference in the future has never been very appealing to me.
Maybe I'm later than you, Ricardo, because the moment of course, I knew this path, I knew about that, but I was very hesitant maybe to take this path until even at a later age. But one of the things, Ricardo, that usually people get scared of really is to do mistakes, to fail, right? So why do you think not many are brave enough and, actually accept that they might fail And because, people, even they fail and they don't talk about it. So what can you tell people who might now be listening to us and saying, hey, okay, I'm kind of the same situation. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe I have some savings. I'm not feeling, I'm doing a lot to the world, but at the same time, I'm in my comfort zone, and why I should go out and do these mistakes.
Yeah, there's many things that could be said. We don't want to fail because it's painful. It doesn't feel good. And what is failing? Not meeting some expectations. Most expectations are not met, especially in the sense of entrepreneurship. I would think 90% of companies did not succeed in a traditional term. So most likely, your company it's not going to grow or have the impact that you imagine. All entrepreneurs are extremely optimistic. We all think that our idea is the best since sliced bread. We think that the world needs us. And unfortunately, it's not the truth. There's no room for success for everyone. So most likely things are not going to go your way, and it's painful. But there's another aspect to this. One is, how much meaning do we give to the, say, failure, to the lack of success? And that's where I think we have more freedom than what we think, because usually we are so identified with our projects, with our ventures. We put so much in them, our time, our money, our energy, our love. So when you put everything that you have into something, you almost become that. You identify into that. You think you are that. So when you think you are your venture, and that this is very unconscious, but you're all in your venture. You've told everyone about your venture. You want your venture to succeed. You've asked people to invest. You've asked people to use your product. And if it doesn't work, it's not that your venture doesn't work. It's that you feel like you don't work. This is where we need to be careful. And this is one of the messages that I send in the book, that we are much more than our ventures, that we need to be able to separate our startups from us. Even for the good and for the bad. So what is not healthy is that you devote yourself to a project, the project doesn't work, you gave your best, and then because it didn't work, you think, oh, I am a failure. And it's very common and it's very natural. And this is how our brains tend to operate. But we need to be much more aware of that. And again, and be very clear when we are treating ourselves like that, giving ourselves our messages, awareness comes a long way. And this mental clarity to realize, hey, be careful. My startup didn't work, but that doesn't mean that I don't work. So it's very important to make that distinction. And the other thing that comes to mind is that it's very important that we release all those emotions that we had in a painful or failure experience. If we feel sad, confused, overwhelmed, lost, lonely, again, when expectations are not met, some of those emotions are going to be generated, and we need to find mechanisms to release that as soon as possible, because those emotions stuck in us are what they're going to keep us stuck in the past, and we want to be free from that. A project that we started may not work, but what we want is to take the lessons, and then we can talk about some of those as well. We want to take the lessons and then again look for the future with brightness and optimism like we were before. And again, it's not easy when previous experiences don't work, but that's when we need to do the inner work to process painful experience. As soon as possible, as deeply as possible, become free from that and regain the optimism that entrepreneurs have. Entrepreneurs are extremely optimistic. We try to put things out there in the world that never existed before. So for that, we need to, again, be clear. We need to be, we don't want to go back to the world. I don't know if the word is either. We want to do as much as we can to see ourselves fresh, to press F5, refresh, and start new again. And I will share again, I understand that when we don't meet our expectations, it creates emotions. It's painful. We are not trained as humans to look at what's happening within us. And that's a big, I don't know if that's a big mistake, but that's a big blind spot that we have. We're trying to fix the world and we're trying to put companies out there, but we are not aware of what's happening within us. And the more we're in tune with us, the more we're going to be able to understand this, and the more free we're going to be after what's called a failing experience.
This is very thought-provoking, Ricardo. Because there are two things you mentioned here, and they're gonna, maybe touch base on something related to the book also as well. So you said entrepreneurs are optimistic, which is 100% I agree with. At the same time, it looks like, we need to take the risks and accept that maybe it doesn't goes at, as we plan to. So
most likely.
And I know, like in the book, you talk about, and you mentioned now this, emotionally draining experience, and you have a story yourself, about, putting like $100,000 against your mortgage. So, if you can walk us through, how did you manage to take this financial hit? And at the same time staying optimistic and saying, I'm gonna do well. So how did you manage to do this?
Yeah, there are lots of parts. I think entrepreneurship, it's very hard, and it was in my case because we have some very early wins, some really good initial feedback, but in a very small scale. And then when I tried to scale the company, I just wasn't able to grow it. So at the beginning, when you fail, things don't work as you expected, you think harder. I think it brings the best out of you. You go through, I'm going to figure this out. And I'll share about the financial impact. I started with my savings. I was laid off from a big company in Austin, North Austin. And I didn't have all the savings that I wanted before quitting and going full time with my startup. But at the same time, it was good enough. And more than anything, I realized that I didn't have the heart to go back to this company or to corporate America. And I really had a full desire to give a chance to this company. So something that I didn't mention before about failure. A failure can be judged from the outside, but we are the ones that we need to. So did your company succeed or not? And this can be observed from the outside. But the bigger conversation, the deeper conversation is what's happening within me. And for me, self-honesty is the biggest, let's call it, success. And I didn't want to live with a ghost in my heart. I wanted to make this company happen, and I wanted to give everything I had. So for me, that's the biggest success. There's 20 different areas or ways or aspects about success, but one that I don't think it's talked about enough is this one. And then, when you go on in with your bet on something and it doesn't go well, it takes a financial hit. So first I I spent all the savings that I had. And then when I ran out of savings, I got a line of credit and to continue with the company. So pretty much I spent all I had until I will evolve more until I saw that we were out of money. So I had to choose. This is after 6 years after I started the company. So I had to choose, do I get another loan or not? I had tried to raise capital. I've had many conversations, but but I wasn't able to raise capital. So I was bootstrapping. And at some point after 6 years, I had to again get another loan. And I realized that wasn't the life that I wanted. I had realized that what I was doing had a cost of opportunity, and that I could be doing other things. So that was very liberating, because as entrepreneurs, we tend to fall in love with ideas, and I had fallen in love with my idea, and I thought, I'm gonna devote myself to this idea, even if it takes my whole life. I guess that's normal to start like that. But after years making efforts, getting rejections, and I could share specific examples. There's lots of examples in the book. So in my case, brief comment. Some companies fail. Some entrepreneurs, let's say, fail because of something very sudden and unexpected and big happens. With me, it was a death in a 1,000 cuts. So yeah, when these things happen, you try harder, but it could come to a point in which you question, is this really what I want for myself? And it's very important to start asking questions about yourself as a person rather than all my company. And that shift was very important for me, not only to think in terms of the company, but to think myself in terms of the person, to bring the humanity back into my startup adventure.
Now, Ricardo, there are many, I mean, it's like a roller coaster, right? So all these things that we might face as entrepreneurs, like, of course, maybe the first thing that comes to mind, frustration, stress, like these kinds of things that we can feel. But, and of course, the fear of being rejected, also maybe something related to losing everything. So but it's like a very, very different experience. I can I don't know, like, if even I can express that enough, because I think the only people who live that can talk about it. But want to ask you something from this emotional aspect, right? Where, for example, some, I would say, best practices, let's say, related to well-being, or maybe related to, how, in a nutshell, if I want to make it simple question, it's crazy, but how, as entrepreneur, as founders, we can stay sane. We don't lose our minds, and we don't drop the ball.
Yes. And I guess I'll give you the crash course on that question. Because the first invitation is to look at ourselves. As founders, we want to change the world, and that's what we want to do. We want to change the world, and we want the world to look in a certain way, and having our products and our product changing the world. So all our efforts are outward thinking. So all our efforts are outward focused. So all our energy is, how can I change the world? In a way, how can I change the world? And when I do change the world, then I will be happy. But the starting point comes in me obtaining whatever I want, even though that may come from a very noble perspective. But again, the focus is on the outside. The first invitation would be to look into us. And this is a message that we really don't get very often. Now we talk about mental health, But to look at our emotions, that is something that I think most people don't even consider that they can have some level of, I don't know if it's control, but some level of awareness, management, care of their emotions. So, and I will get to the question, but very often, or towards the mid end of my company, I would realize that I had spent the whole morning without being very productive. And it wasn't because of a lack of desire, conviction, or ambition. It was because I was paralyzed. I felt lonely. I was paralyzed. So those emotions are in our bodies, and that's where we need to look. Again, we treat our bodies. Sorry, as if we were a black box. As if there was nothing for us there, and it's the opposite. We accumulate these emotions in our bodies. What are they for? So I am an instructor in a meditation system called the Asia system, and we work with 4 basic emotions: fear, sadness, anger, and joy. We need to start paying attention to ourselves to see what's happening within us, and be very quick at identifying when we have these emotions, and then release them. If we are sad, we can cry. If we are angry, we can hit a pillow or scream. I'm scared. This is a little bit more buried. Lots of things can happen when you're scared, but if you move the body, the idea is to move the body and start. Maybe you can hit, scream, but really cry, but start moving the body so the emotions start releasing. And when you've released your emotions, you're going to have so much more clarity. It's happened to me many times that, yeah, I mean, this is something that I've seen again and again. Who doesn't feel better after a good cry? I don't cry very often, but I know that after a good cry, the world doesn't seem to weight as much. And what we thought were incredible, overwhelming problems, then they lose their weight. So we underestimate how much our state, how much our inner state can influence our, let's say, our outcomes, and how we underestimate how important it is to take a look at ourselves.
That's fantastic, Ricardo. And I'm gonna come back to some of the the meditation, and I'm gonna ask you later about the journey that you had after your experience. But before this, want to go back to something you mentioned about of course, when you say corporate America, this is a global show. We can say it's a corporate world, right? So it's the same concept.
For sure. Yeah, that's right. Was same concept for sure.
Yeah. Now, there are sometimes we see people who go outside. I'm not sure if they are trying to push the people, or they are trying to demotivate them, and they say, hey, look, like entrepreneurship is not for everyone, right? And like it's if you are like doing good, and okay, you're complaining about the corporate, and you're complaining about this and that, so keep doing it. Now, what really I want to get your opinion on, and someone who experienced that, Ricardo, is it really like entrepreneurship is not for everyone? Like, and if it's not, so because people, they want also to avoid going and start hitting the walls, right? Because they said, okay, you know what, I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur. Like maybe the 9 to 5 is something that suits me, so I should be accepting this. From your experience, like, is there really something like this? Or do you think, and because especially after the pandemic and what's happening now in the world, so more people, they are thinking to become entrepreneurs, but they hear these opinions that, hey, this is not for everyone. What's your take on that?
Yeah, 2 quick thoughts, because the way in which it was very subtle, but the way in which you express that, when people say, well, maybe I'm not an entrepreneur, I think that statement or that way of saying it, it almost, I perceive a tone of defeat in which you're almost deciding, oh, I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur, as a way to get yourself off the hook. Like, I am too old to do this. Oh, it almost feels like an excuse not to do something different. If you're coming different and challenging, if this is how you're perceiving it, it has like a tone of the opposite of aliveness. It's a tone of passivity, of how do you call when resignation. So that is not great. So again, going like always, I don't have a universal answer, but if that's what you're thinking, it's like one of my friends thinking, I don't believe in this market anymore, and it's just a way for him to get him off the hook and not having to do anything about it. So first, I would look at how we talk about each other, and the second part is that yes, it's not for everyone, or it's not for everyone. That's for sure. Because if you want to be an entrepreneur because you are not satisfied with your current job, well, then you need to look at why are you not satisfied. Is it because it's hard? Well, then is it because you're working a lot in your current job and that's why you want to become an entrepreneur? And that's not a good reason. Do you have lots of ideas and lots of drive? You want to put something out there in the world? Do you want to make an impact? Do you want to get the rewards for making an impact? Then that's a good reason to become an entrepreneur. So like always, more than it is for everyone or not for everyone, I think each of us needs to look at ourselves and ask, what do I want? What am I willing to do? What are the sacrifices? Maybe both jobs have sacrifices, corporate and entrepreneur. What set of sacrifices am I more comfortable going through? And the other thing is what another way of looking at this is what kind of regrets do you feel better with? The regret of not having tried, the regret of failing. I knew I wanted to try, even if I failed. I didn't want to live with that regret. But maybe for other people, I don't know, failing could be this absolute disaster that could ruin your lives. So I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't have a universal answer, but this is for everyone to look at themselves and think what do they want for themselves? Do they want to put everything out there with an outcome that may not be the one they expected, or do they want to be doing the same thing for the next 2 years? I'm not sure. We're all different, so I guess we all need to choose our own adventure.
Absolutely, and like I've had a quick skimming the book, and what I have felt, Ricardo, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the way you have put it is you set expectations for people, and I think this is why you called it crash course, right? So you just set kind of expectation, what could happen, what could go wrong, and how you can overcome it. But people, if they read the book, it's what I felt personally. So you feel like you are, putting them into the future for a moment, let them have a thought about it, and then get back to reality and take your decision. Is this what you aimed for when you decided to write the book?
So there's two main reasons why I wrote the book. Again, the book, Crash Course, which is about the emotional journey of the entrepreneur. So first, I wanted to organize and express what I had gone through, what I had gone through for 6 years. I wanted to organize this experience, get a little bit of distance, and have more clarity about everything that happened. But the other most, I guess, more relevant thing for your audience is that there are lots of books about startups, building startups, growing startups, scaling startups. There are not too many books that I've seen about the person, uh, the person who's building the startup. No, again, and this is a distinction I'm making that I don't see very often. This book is for the person. And when I see books about the person, this is when I've seen books about the person building the startup, it's always been autobiographies of billionaires. And yes, they can be absolutely inspiring, but a little bit hard to relate to. So my goal was not to write a book about inspiration. I wanted to write a book for companionship to the entrepreneur, to tell the entrepreneur, I hear you, you're understood. There's nothing wrong with you. What you're doing is extremely difficult and extremely beautiful. And I want to be there with you, supporting you. So I wanted to write this book to support all entrepreneurs that are doing something difficult and beautiful.
Absolutely fantastic, Ricardo. And to your point, you're right. And these kinds of books, of course, they are very valuable. And it's not only the books. So, for example, maybe you will agree with me, I'm sure. So nowadays we went out of the books only, and thought leadership started to become something also on social media, like LinkedIn and so on. And then I see the same thing. So I put myself in the shoes of a founder, and when I see all these things in front of me, I said, "Hey, hold on one second. Like I feel like I'm sitting in a school. They're teaching me how to do this, how to do that." While the entrepreneur should be more curious and should have the exactly what you said, like the companion that can be kind of a mentor, coach, whatever you want to call it, rather than a teacher. Because I think teaching entrepreneurship and teaching these things, theory is one thing, and practical experience is something completely different, right? So this is what I felt, having this approach would benefit the founders, or the entrepreneurs in general, because they will feel that this is not someone who's trying to instruct us and show us we are kind of we don't know dummies. Do you agree with me, Ricardo?
Yeah, as I'm listening to you, what I hear is, yes, I think so of course we need to be educated and we need to know what we're doing and hopefully learn from the best and don't do very stupid mistakes. And we are taught about things, how to do things, build things. But again, that you have a plan, you follow the recipes, and at some point, most likely the recipe is not going to work. And at that point, yes, you can work on the recipe, you can pivot, you can change it, you can do all these things. But when things don't work, that's going to have an impact on you. And that's when we incorporate the human aspect of entrepreneurship that it is so missed. So yes, books about things will get you so far along. At some point, we need to look at the person who's building the company. What's happening with him or her when things are not working? Why are they doing this? How much are they willing to sacrifice? And these are personal questions. They're not questions about things. They're questions about people. And I think they're more important.
Absolutely right. Now, one thing you meant, because you mentioned about the wellness and the meditation and all this stuff. So I know, your experience led you to a spiritual path. You talk about it in the book. So can you share some of the things that you have learned from this experience?
Yes, I mean, so much. So every year I go for 1 or 2 months. In 2018, I went for 6 months. I did this meditation retreat in Uruguay, in the Isha Youth Center in Uruguay. So every day you learn something new, but a couple of insights. I think you start paying attention with what's happening within you. And let's say you start to listen to your body, making the comparison. Let's say you put let's say you put a loaf of bread in the oven, and sometimes you will see it when it's burnt, and then it's too late. But you develop the awareness to feel what's happening with you, let's say, as the bread is heating up. So let's say someone comes in the street, or let's say I think that you are asking me something very inappropriate. Well, let's imagine. And so if I react as if the bread was already burned, I'm just going to respond as if I was a puppet, mechanism. You say this, I think it does that, and then I respond this. So we're very, very reactive. So as you develop this self-awareness to see what's happening, you start realizing that you have different ways to respond. So instead of being so reactive, let's say, let's say shouting back at you, you ask me a question, and I don't think it's appropriate. I can take a second here, and maybe 6 or 7 options on how to respond would come to me. Maybe I could tell you, can you rephrase that? Or is there something that I did not understand? Can I get back to you? Or I don't think this is appropriate. Let's look at this other way. Or I don't know, I can respond to you gracefully, but still addressing the part that I did not agree with, or maybe even be open that I didn't understand something. So you have so much more openness. And what is the consequence with being less reactive? So you make a different kind of choices. And when you make different choices, the world also responds in a different way. When the world starts responding in a different way, because you chose something different, you start really seeing yourself as a creator. No, I chose this. I created this. And the more you develop this practice of choosing and being aware of the responses that your choices have, you see yourself again more as a creator of your circumstances and of your world, and less as a victim. So that's one of them.
Really inspiring, Ricardo. As we are almost, coming to an end of this episode, one final thing I want to ask you, Ricardo. So if, the people who reads the book, if you want them to go up with one lesson, what would be?
So it's mostly for, the book was taught for entrepreneurs, founders, creators, and even everyone who's something new and important for them in the world. So I would tell them that yes, what you're starting in the world, it's really, really, really important, but your life is even more important than that.
Really, that's, to the point, I would say. Ricardo, when people can get the book, so where they can get the book, and where they can get to know more about you and your work?
Sure. So it's available in Amazon. I've been told that Amazon really looks at those reviews. So if people are inclined to get a copy and leave me a good review, I would appreciate it. So the book is on Amazon. The book is Crash Course. And if you look for Crash Course, Ricardo Jimenez, like my first and last name, you will find it. But it's on, there's also a direct link from my website, which is Ricardo Jimenez, and Jimenez is Jimenezh. So RicardoJimenezh.com. You will find links there to Amazon, more information about me, my Instagram as well. And I would love to connect with your audience.
Great. So for the audience, you don't have to follow the URLs. You will find them if you are listening to us on your favorite podcasting app. You will find them in the show notes. If you are watching this on YouTube, you will find them into the description. Ricardo, really, this is a topic close to my heart, as I was telling you even before we start to record this episode, because and this is what we call it, the entrepreneur's mindset, right? So to have this, ability to be resilient, to be strong, to understand, all the emotional aspects of how really to build a great product, service, as you said, even a creator. So you build something. Really, I enjoyed, the conversation with you today and all, the insight that you shared. And you can connect with Ricardo. As I said, I will put all the links in the show notes and in the description on YouTube. So this is how I end my episodes usually. This is for the audience. If you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. If you enjoyed, give me a favor and subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends and colleagues. We are trying to reach out as much people as possible to inspire them. And if you are one of the people who keep sending me their, questions, some suggestions, keep them coming. I read them all and I take them into consideration. So thank you for doing this. And as I say always, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll meet again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.